In a highly anticipated matchup between two 11-3 teams, the Baltimore Ravens came into Levi's Stadium and shocked the San Francisco 49ers with physical play and rock-solid football. The 49ers, on the other hand, let it rip with their dynamic offense, but committed numerous mistakes along the way. By the end of it all, the Baltimore Ravens had established themselves as the best team in the NFL. Lamar Jackson may have moved into the front-runner position in the MVP race. Welcome to Josh's Football Breakdowns, where we don't tell you what you're seeing, we let the film tell us what we're seeing. And if you're a 49ers fan who's here looking for answers on why the team lost, well, we've got a lot to look at, so let's get right into it. Now, unfortunately here, you can see that I've stopped it on the opening kickoff, if you can believe that. The 49ers special teams unit has been ranked last or near last in the entire league for almost the entire season. And yet the special teams coaches instruct Jake Moody to kick this ball to the corner. They want an advantage in field position to start the game. But when Ty Wallace starts to make his return, Winters and Connolly miss their tackles, and then Darrell Luter misses a tackle. And the Ravens get a net gain in field position. What should the 49ers have done differently? Well, they probably should have just kicked this ball out of the back of the end zone. Nevertheless, the Ravens would be faced with a 3rd down and 8 early in the ballgame. And let's take a look at the pass rush of Nick Bosa here. You can see that the Ravens have left the running back in to help with pass protection. But take a look at Bosa. He's taking a big step like he's going to take the long way around, forcing the running back to commit, setting up his pass protection in that area. And when he does, Bosa switches to the inside route. And watch how smoothly he does this. With pressure bearing down on him, Lamar Jackson is going to have to throw this ball early. And we've all seen Brock Purdy throw with great anticipation over and over again all season long. And it does raise the question, why don't all the quarterbacks do this? Well, it's not as easy as it looks. And this isn't a knock on Lamar Jackson, he's a former MVP. Instead, this is an excellent example of just how difficult it is to throw with that kind of anticipation. 4th down and 8, and yeah, we're going to look at another special teams play. In fact, we're going to take a look at a lot of special teams in today's breakdown. So welcome to Josh's Special Teams Breakdowns. John Harbaugh was a special teams coach, and the Ravens had a decided advantage in this game. And here it's possible that Ronnie Bell, the returner for the 49ers, may have realized that Ty Wallace has once again beaten Darrell Luter, this time on the punt coverage, and so he calls for the fair catch. But he's got a lot of space in front of him. I'm a little surprised he didn't attempt a return here. And he's being careful, I understand that, but I think this was another early mistake on special teams for the 49ers. So the 49ers get the ball, albeit backed up, and the Ravens decide to send Patrick Queen on the linebacker blitz. And we get an example on the very first offensive play for the 49ers of Brock Purdy's famous processing speed, immediately finding the hot read to Christian McCaffrey. Did you see it? Queen starts out as if he's going with Christian McCaffrey. He times his blitz to the snap of the football. This is so good because it prevents the quarterback or the center from making a line audible, which would allow the offensive line to shift and pick him up. Now they're unable to do that. Also notice that a certain Jadeveon Clowney is looping to the inside. But he doesn't do this straight away because that would allow McKivitz to pick up the blitzing Queen. Instead, he takes a step to the outside first, forcing McKivitz to commit to him, allowing Queen to come unblocked to the quarterback. But it's all for naught as Purdy finds McCaffrey for a gain. On third down, the Ravens decide to send a blitz, meaning they only have one safety back deep. It might look like they have a second safety on the other side of the formation, but that's a corner. He's giving those receivers for the 49ers a lot of space. He sees they're in a trips formation and he actually takes a step in that direction. George Kittle takes the space the defense left behind. Kittle runs away from him, and it's the downfield blocking of Brandon Ayuk that turns this into a 58-yard gain. The 49ers follow this up by running two players into the area of one defender. And Purdy throws another dart to Kittle. The 49ers would open the game with 6 straight passing plays. And I remember thinking, okay, they should probably mix in a run here at some point. But at the same time, I couldn't argue with the success they were having in the passing game. Well, San Francisco went to the well one too many times, as they say, and this pass would be intercepted. Ouch. Let's go back to the snap and see if we can figure out what happened. Brock Purdy made 2 mistakes on this play. First of all, he was late on the throw. What does that mean? Well, you can see he's taking a look to the right side. He's reading that side of the formation, and the safety moves. Now, as soon as the safety moves, he should come off of that because he's taking away those routes. Instead, as Purdy throws in an extra little hop here, you can see he's still looking over there. Now he does reset his feet and come over to Debo. After the game, Purdy said he needed to go through these progressions faster because Debo is going to be wide open, but the ball should already be on the way to him here. The second mistake Brock Purdy makes is he lobs up a nice easy pass for Debo to catch. That's great, but now there's 2 problems with this. Number 1, it gives the safety time to react to the play, and because Purdy's late on the throw, Debo's going to be closer to that safety. He's going to be in great position to intercept this ball. Incidentally, if Purdy had sort of gunned this ball right over the middle, it might have been a different result. I think Debo still would have taken a big hit on the play, but it might not have been picked. It's just an unfortunate compound of errors, especially since the pass protection on this play was probably the best it had been during the entire drive. So the 49ers had gone on a pretty good opening drive there, but the Ravens survive with no points allowed. But now it's the 49er defense's turn to come up with a big play. Watch Fred Warner. Very similar to the way Patrick Queen did earlier, he casually walks up to the line of scrimmage, and then right at the snap, he just goes and has a free lane to the quarterback. And here Lamar Jackson is in big trouble. In an unfortunate act of timing, the Ravens had called some long developing routes on this particular play. And he's still inside the tackle box, so he can't throw the ball away or else it would be intentional grounding. And take a look at Nick Bosa and Chase Young. They're no longer pass rushing to the inside because they see Lamar Jackson backing up. They're able to change their rush to just head straight downfield, and of course, the Baltimore tackles aren't set up for that. So Lamar Jackson is forced to retreat further. So Jackson eventually does get outside the tackle box and he does throw the ball away, but by rule, that ball still has to get beyond the line of scrimmage. And we can actually see where the ball bounces here, and we can take a look at the line of scrimmage, and you can see that ball is clearly short. That is going to be intentional grounding. And since he committed that foul inside the end zone, by rule, it is a safety. From this angle, you can see how quickly the Baltimore tackles are forced into an impossible situation. Surprised by the play, the official trips, and then Lamar Jackson trips over him. It's a really unfortunate break for the Ravens, but what is the rule here? Well, like in many sports, in this context, the official is simply part of the field. So the safety gives the 49ers the lead, 2-0. And by rule, Baltimore must kick to San Francisco. It's a free kick, so what you're essentially going to see is like a punt here. And the 49ers don't have to worry about the Ravens, like going for it, for example. So they can just set up for a return. San Francisco should get excellent field position after this. And you can see the punt is going to be fielded around the 20. Bell should be able to get this thing up to the 40 easily. But Bell misjudges the flight of the ball in the air, and the ball goes out of bounds, and the 49ers are backed up again. Another big mistake by the 49ers special teams. Perhaps one play too late, but still better late than never, the 49ers call their first run play of the game. Earlier, we saw a great play from Patrick Queen, but the Ravens have another great linebacker on their roster, Roquan Smith. And with Christian McCaffrey headed towards the edge, Smith runs over to beat him to the punch. And as we've seen time and time again this season, the 49ers just allow this. Charlie Warner allows him to get over there and then blocks him towards the boundary, giving Christian McCaffrey the cutback lane. On the next play, the Ravens have two safeties on the field, but they've dropped one down and are playing one back, one on each side of the formation. So Brock Purdy calls an audible. He changes the run to the other side where there are fewer defenders. On the next play, we would see another big play from the 49ers, but I want to take a minute first to highlight some more excellent linebacker play by the Ravens. Take a look at Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey. Purdy is nowhere near to completing the fake handoff to Christian McCaffrey, and yet the linebackers for the Ravens are already dropping back. They know it's a pass. How do they know this? They're reading pass protect from the offensive line. They see the line pass protecting and they just drop back. This is so good. Now, what's the adjustment to this? Well, if there is to be another game against the Ravens this season, you might see a running back draw. In the meantime, the Ravens have done a good job here of taking away the middle of the field. And this can be a problem for some quarterbacks. Some quarterbacks really love to operate in that part of the field. Why? Well, that's where your easiest passes are, right? You're going to have your biggest plays in the middle. You're going to have your highest percentage plays in the middle. But Purdy can make all the throws, which means he can also operate on the edges. And he has Brandon Ayuk one-on-one outside the numbers. There is a small problem. You can see the defender is set up to the outside. So take a look at Brandon Ayuk. He takes a big step to the inside first, gets the corner to react, and only then goes to the outside. Now, as I mentioned, this isn't exactly an easy throw, but Brock Purdy nails it. But a few plays later, Purdy and McCaffrey aren't exactly on the same page on 3rd down and 9. You can see Purdy is already winding up to make this throw. He's expecting McCaffrey to move to the outside as soon as he reaches the level of the defender, which is short of the line to gain, by the way. McCaffrey, on the other hand, tries to run through the defender first and then cut, and the pass falls incomplete. So here we would see something we haven't seen a whole lot of this season. The 49ers have been so efficient on offense, they haven't kicked many field goals. But they bring in Jake Moody here, and he absolutely nails one. And after some miscues early in the season, Jake Moody has been by far one of their best players on special teams. So the 49ers lead by the strange baseball score 5-0, and we would get to one of our first key 3rd downs of the ballgame. As the play breaks down, Lamar Jackson, like Brock Purdy, is great at buying time, and he spots Isaiah Likely coming open down the field. The only problem is Tashawn Gibson spots it too. Okay, you can see the ball in the air, and here's where things get interesting. The defender has an equal right to the ball, and in some cases can even play through an offensive player to get to the football. The flags come out for pass interference. Gibson doesn't appreciate the call and likely doesn't appreciate what Gibson did to him. So let's take a look from this angle and see what may have happened. The officials will, like I said, in some circumstances allow you to play through an offensive player, but what they won't allow you to do is climb up their back, which is what Gibson did and which is what Likely did not appreciate. It was a bit of a frustrating call for 49er fans because there was an earlier non-call on Kyle Juszczyk, but I think this was an accurate call, and it leads to a Justin Tucker field goal, and the 49ers still have the lead by the absurd score of 5-3. They have the lead in the game, but it still feels like the 49ers are missing some opportunities, which they definitely are. So here on 1st down, they say, forget about the run, we're taking to the skies. And the Ravens are in a zone defense, and we see Patrick Queen come down to pick up Christian McCaffrey. He's going to hand George Kittle off to Marlon Humphrey. And they actually do a pretty nice job with the handoff here. Humphrey talked a lot of smack before the game, and he backed it up. But on this particular play, he's in a difficult situation. We can see Kittle is to the inside. Well, if Humphrey runs to the inside, he could get burned pretty badly if Kittle's route calls for him to go to the outside. If he heads straight downfield, Kittle's just going to be open to the inside, which is what happens in the game. What could the Ravens have done differently? Well, if they had 2 safeties back deep, they could have taken away this route. They only have 1 safety back deep because they sent a blitz, and Brock Purdy delivers a strike. Alright, we're in the 2nd quarter now, so the teams have switched sides, but this is still the same drive. And if you look up top, you can see Stevens has his back turned, and Deebo Samuel is already looking for the football. Him and Brock Purdy are on the same page, and it was 2009 that Aaron Rodgers was killing teams with the back shoulder fade, and this year it's Brock Purdy doing the same. We've looked at a couple of plays now where Stevens has allowed completions. It just raises the question again, how do you defend Brock Purdy? Whether you blitz him, whether you don't, whether you play man, whether you play zone. You just have to wait for him to make a mistake. But here, the 49ers catch Stevens with his pants down again. When Purdy goes to hand the ball off to Christian McCaffrey, Stevens jumps the gun on run defense, leaving him vulnerable to the run-pass option. The problem for the 49ers here is Brock Purdy's legendary processing speed. He realizes this almost a little too quickly. He needs to sell this run to McCaffrey just a split second longer, get Stevens to commit first. Instead, he comes off of it too fast. Stevenson is able to stop and adjust, which is very impressive. Nevertheless, it's still the quarterback's responsibility to get this ball up and over the defender, which Brock Purdy did not do. So even though it's a tipped pass, due to the circumstance, I do put this one on Brock Purdy. Another one that he will learn from. Marlon Humphrey, incidentally, with the interception. The Ravens would capitalize on the turnover, punching this ball in and taking their first lead of the game, 10-5. And man, do I love this play. Operating out of the double wing pistol formation, the entire offensive line moves to their left, while the wingback is the lead blocker for Gus Edwards, who's lined up in the fullback position, and they're both going to their right. In this case, Nick Bosa and Fred Warner both run to the same gap, allowing the running back a clear path to the end zone. Trailing for the first time in the game, the 49ers would like to respond. And after the game, Brock Purdy said he saw the flags on this play, knew it was against the offense, and at that point he has to concede that the play is dead. But Purdy has that natural playmaking ability in him, and he just can't let the play die, and he tries to make something out of nothing, and this is something that we love about Brock Purdy, but it's also one of the few things that does get him into trouble from time to time. He spots George Kittle and he tries to make a play. The ball gets tipped up and is intercepted again. Yes, it's another tipped pass interception, but again, due to the circumstances, I do put this one on Brock Purdy. Feel free to yell at me at the comments if you need to. I read every comment. And here we get a great look at the penalty. Aaron Banks blocks high, while Christian McCaffrey blocks low. This has long been illegal in the NFL. For safety reasons, it will get called every time as an illegal chop block. A good call. Yes, it's an unlucky play, but by playing just a little bit cleaner, the 49ers can avoid some of these unlucky situations. The turnover would lead to more points by the Ravens as Tucker knocks through another field goal. And the Ravens are up by a now equally absurd score of 13-5, which is still technically a one-score game. So the 49ers need to get their offense going here. They need to find some consistency. And here Brock Purdy does a good job of recognizing that this screen is blown up, and he makes another play. With time winding down in the second quarter, Purdy would continue driving the 49ers downfield. On 2nd and 2, Kyle would call a relatively safe running play designed to pick up the first down. Aaron Banks and Trent Williams would block to the outside, while Jake Brendel and John Feliciano would block to the inside, opening up the hole for Kyle Juszczyk to be the lead blocker for Christian McCaffrey. And McCaffrey breaks loose and then turns on the Jets in the open field, and he is just wrapped up all the way down inside the 10-yard line. Wow. Some possible holding from Deebo Samuel there, but I love that he's blocking downfield. And I think this year the officials are doing a really good job of not calling that if they're not 100% sure it's a hold, which hasn't always been the case in the past and has taken away good, legitimate runs. In this case, they don't make the call, and Christian McCaffrey eats up the yardage. Facing first and goal at the 9, Kyle Shanahan goes back to the ground. And McCaffrey gets it all the way into the end zone for a touchdown, and the 49ers have answered right back. And this play was made by Aaron Banks. So this makes the score 13-11, and we get to the first decision of the game. Kyle Shanahan decides to go for the extra point, which Moody knocks through, making the score 13-12. I know it's awfully early to start going for two. I felt like psychologically the 49ers really needed to tie the game there, to say, hey, we've weathered all this stuff, and it's still an even game. But they don't, and they're still trailing. And when the Ravens get the ball, Lamar Jackson starts making plays. Fred Warner in the open field against Lamar Jackson, forget it. Javon Hargrave has been dealing with a hamstring injury, and here we see how it may have affected him on this play. And from this angle, we get a great look at Chase Young coming tantalizingly close to coming up with the sack against Lamar. Thanks to the big play, the Ravens are able to quickly go down the field and answer right back, adding on another Justin Tucker field goal and going up 16-12. Let's move ahead to the third quarter. You know, I was thinking during the game that with all these missed opportunities in the first half, if the 49ers came back to win it in the second half, the narrative after the game could be that the Ravens let the 49ers hang around. You know, Baltimore kicked a lot of field goals in this game. It's not like they were lighting it up on offense. So, to me, I thought it was important that the 49ers really come out in the third quarter disciplined and ready to go. Instead, they find themselves in a punting situation early. We're going to take a look at the gunner at the bottom of the screen here. He's kind of wiggling all over, moving around. Now, this is an interesting interpretation of the rules because a false start is an illegal simulation of the snap. You cannot simulate the snap. You don't have to be completely still. But in this case, he's moving around. He's constantly moving. May have been warned about it by the officials before. We don't know that. But the defender asks for the penalty, and the officials agree and make the call. It backs the 49ers up, and it's another special teams mistake. And then I'm going to show you the punt because we're going to see another special teams mistake after this. Missed tackle, and the Ravens are going to get excellent field position here, but we can see Ty Wallace is clearly out of bounds, way on the white stripe there, and then Mitch Wishnowsky just blasts him out of bounds. That's going to be another 15-yard personal foul. It's going to really set the Ravens up in the third quarter here, and number 16 is killing the 49ers. Back on offense, Lamar Jackson continues making plays for the Ravens. Both Jackson and Purdy made a dazzling array of plays in this game, but Jackson, the seasoned veteran, was doing it mistake-free. Here the Ravens start with the fake handoff to Gus Edwards, who then goes to help out in pass protection. And then at the same time, Lamar Jackson and Gus Edwards just go. And this puts Dre Greenlaw in a really difficult situation. It's a catch-22 for him. Who do you defend? Greenlaw decides to defend the player with the ball, Lamar Jackson. And Jackson simply says, "Thank you very much," takes what the defense gives him, and in this case, it's quite a lot. Once again, Chase Young and Nick Bosa come tantalizingly close to a sack, but Lamar Jackson escapes the pocket. Now there's only one receiver to that side of the formation, it's Nelson Aguilar, and Jason Verrett is blanketed all over him, but Aguilar would eventually break free. And Lamar throws a strike. Touchdown Ravens. Baltimore starting to pull away in the game with a 2-score lead in the third quarter. And we see Brock Purdy's 4th interception of the game, and this one was a backbreaker. But this is the one that I don't put on Brock Purdy, so let's go back to the snap. Purdy makes his first read to Deebo Samuel, who's taking a nice jog. So he resets and takes a quick look at Brandon Ayuk. With that legendary processing speed, he comes right off of Ayuk and turns to Christian McCaffrey, and he's open. Unfortunately, Colton McKivitz is taking an L in pass protection, and Travis Jones would come over and hit the arm of Brock Purdy right when he was throwing this football. This interception is definitely not on the quarterback. Unfortunately for the 49ers, it counts just the same for the Ravens. With Lamar Jackson a threat to run, the 49er defense collapses down, allowing Zay Flowers to come wide open behind them. From this angle, we see Lamar was actually faking the toss to Gus Edwards. Much like the 49ers, the Ravens have multiple running threats, and then they kill you with the pass. The 49ers find themselves trailing 30-12 at home in the third quarter, but it's still early enough in the third quarter that they can stick to their ground game. And the threat of that alone is enough to draw in the Baltimore defense. Now, let's take a look at Deebo Samuel. At first glance, he appears to be well covered. There's 2 defenders back there. But check out the stem of Deebo's route. It looks like he's going deep. And as far as the safety knows, that's what he's doing. And the safety's number one job is not to get beat deep. Baltimore has a big lead in this game. The worst thing they could do here is give up a long bonehead touchdown that would allow the 49ers to get back in the game. So the safety plays it safe. Deebo Samuel takes the space the defense left behind. Now that was a nice pass, the 49ers are still slinging it, but the reason I wanted to show you this play is this. Jalen Moore has come in for an injured Trent Williams. The pass protection starts to go a little haywire, but Brock Purdy is still Brock Purdy. Facing a big third down, the 49ers run off zone defenders, opening up Deebo Samuel underneath. Now, he is short of the line to gain. Nevertheless, this would have brought up a very manageable 4th down and let's call it 3. And he drops it. And this brings up another interesting decision in the game. It's 4th down and 6, and I think the 49ers have to go for it here. Kyle Shanahan decides that it's not 4th and 3, it's now 4th and 6. He decides to punt, and I think this is just an outright mistake. You're down 30-12, and it's not like the offense has been completely shut down. There's been a few simple mistakes. On that previous play, it looked like they had Brandon Ayuk open as well, so there is definitely reason to think they could pick up the 4th down. I understand you wanted 4th and 3, and now it's 4th and 6, but it's not 4th and 20, right? It's 4th and 6. You're at midfield. You got to go for it. You got to pick that up. And then at the tail end of this punt, we see that the ball is touched early when it was still rolling. It could have been downed at maybe the 2 or the 3 yard line. Instead, it's downed at the 5. It's another small mistake. But again, in this game, in the game of football, these little things add up. And on special teams, they're turning into an avalanche. Now, to be perfectly fair, the Ravens go on a 94-yard drive against what is probably a tiring 49er defense at this point, and you can see that the field goal unit comes on late. Despite having 4th and goal at the 1, this is a little chess move by John Harbaugh here. He goes for the points instead of going for it, not getting it, and giving the 49ers any kind of momentum. He just takes these little small gains and makes it as hard as possible for the 49ers to come back. Now here on 4th down and 11, the 49ers find themselves in the position of trying to pick up a much more difficult 1st down. And this is why it was probably important for them to go for the 4th down and 6 earlier in the game. Christian McCaffrey is going to be tasked with pass protection, something we've praised him for on this channel before, but in this case, he takes an L. And it's unfortunate because it looked like the 49ers did have Brandon Ayuk open here, but with the pressure coming at Brock Purdy, he has to step up, and the play breaks down. One thing I do like is this drop back here by Brock Purdy, dropping back away from the pressure. And at first glance, it may look like Brock Purdy can get this pass off, but watch how quickly this defender closes. And then this pass is just spectacular. How did he do that? Unfortunately, it does not pick up the 1st down. So now the Ravens have a 4th and 11, and look where they're at, the 40-yard line. From here, this would be a 57-yard field goal, definitely in Justin Tucker's range, and we see another chess move by John Harbaugh here, calling for the punt. Why didn't he try a long kick? Well, talking to people who were at the game, they told me it was a little bit humid that night and very cold, and the field was slippery, not ideal kicking conditions. So he calls for the punt, and being that close, the punter asks for a little bit more room. He takes the intentional delay of game penalty, and this brings up another potential chess move, right? Because if Kyle Shanahan declines the penalty, Harbaugh could then just trot out Justin Tucker. But Shanahan also realizes that the kicking conditions are not ideal, and he confidently declines the penalty, and he forces the Ravens to execute a difficult punt, which they do, putting it down right at the 10-yard line, right in between, just a perfect punt. Down 3 scores with 9 minutes to go in the 4th quarter, the 49ers obviously need to pick up this 3rd and 10. At the snap, the right side of the offensive line collapses and Brock Purdy has to buy time. And here we can see Brandon Ayuk sitting up, but there's a defender blanketed all over him. Now if you sit up and there's a defender right there, what do? You move. Now, one more thing I'll point out, just because people will see this and ask about it. What about Deebo Samuel? He appears to be all alone down there at the bottom. The situation in the pocket, to put it politely, is fluid, right? Brock Purdy's not able to stand there and go through progressions and get to Deebo Samuel. It's perfectly okay. Him and Brandon Ayuk have great chemistry here, and they pick up the first down. Now look, that was a great play, we get it, but why did I show you that play? Well, take a look at the left side of the offensive line. Now we can see Jalen Moore is out with injury, and Colton McKivitz has slid over there, meaning Spencer Burford also has to play right tackle. This is a bad situation for the 49er offensive line, and it shows on this play and in the coming plays. The 49ers would keep fighting. Nice throw by Purdy, and then Ayuk makes some defenders miss and then gets upfield. Back foot hits, and already this is a disaster in the pocket. Brock Purdy can barely make his first read, let alone try to execute a throw, and he takes a sack and gets injured on the play. Oh boy. And this is a situation that has been simmering just below the surface all season long. You guys have been warning me about it in the comments. It doesn't matter how good of a quarterback you have if you can't protect him. And we're seeing how quickly injuries on the O-line lead to the total collapse of the system here. Jadeveon Clowney beats Colton McKivitz. He steps on Aaron Banks on the way through and injures him. Banks would hang in there for another couple of drives, and eventually he would have to leave as well. Brock Purdy would feel good enough to come back into the game, but down 3 scores with 6 minutes to play and backup offensive lineman in the game, Kyle Shanahan wasn't going to subject his quarterback to the risk of serious injury and put all of our hopes and dreams at risk. Sam Darnold would finish the game. All right, one last score to show you guys. Ronnie Bell on the post catches the safety a little bit flat-footed, and the linebacker does not get any depth or otherwise carry Bell down the field. Sam Darnold spots the mistake immediately. The 49ers would show tremendous competitiveness, leading another long drive down the field. But in order for this comeback attempt to truly work, you have to score here before the 2-minute warning because the onside kick percentages are so low. They're unable to punch it in, the clock runs, they hit 2 minutes, and realistically, this is what ended the 49ers' chances of a comeback in this game. And that'll about do it here on Josh's Football Breakdowns. If you're a Ravens fan, I just want to say you guys have a heck of a team, just an unbelievable football team. I believe the Baltimore Ravens very well could be the AFC champions. And if you're a 49ers fan, man, I salute you for hanging in there. That was some tough film to watch. And it does raise the question, where do the 49ers stand now? Well, the good news is a lot of what we saw today is correctable, right? The special teams can execute better. Brock Purdy can execute better. And, if they just tweak a few little things, they're right in this game. The biggest area of concern is the injuries, right? Those aren't so easily correctable. We don't know how serious a lot of them are, and they still have a couple of games to play. So that is going to really be something to watch. We see how quickly a few injuries lead to the total collapse of the system, as I said. So, where do the 49ers go from here? Well, they go across the country to Washington on a short week. shorthanded. Ouch. The schedule has just been really, really tough on the 49ers this year. The Commanders aren't very good. On the other hand, this is a big game, right? And they're going to be fired up this could potentially be their Super Bowl if you want to look at it that way. So the 49ers are going to get Washington's best shot here. The good news is they're still the number 1 seed, right? And if either Philadelphia and Detroit lose or the 49ers win, it keeps the 49ers in the number 1 seed. If both of those things happen, the 49ers actually clinch the number 1 seed this week, which I believe would be incredible. It would go a long way in really helping them rest players because they wouldn't have to really play anybody in that Week 18 game against the Rams. Realistically, you have to figure either Detroit or Philadelphia is going to win next week, and the 49ers will have to play a game against the Rams. So it's important that they go to Washington, execute, and get out of town without any further injuries. That will be a key to their success going forward. If they can lock up that number 1 seed and get the first round bye and rest, I like the 49ers' chances. Their offense is just so explosive this year. They have a ton of playmakers on defense. Need to button up the special teams a little bit, but they do have an excellent kicking game, right? Jake Moody and Mitch Wishnowsky are looking really, really good the further and further the season goes along. So I think the 49ers prospects are really good. They do have to finish the season. They're tired, they're injured, and they got a tough couple of games coming up. This is going to be really interesting. This is crunch time. This is it. I mean, this is it right here. It is put up or shut up. Lock up the number 1 seed and go on to the Super Bowl. I want to thank all my new subscribers. You guys have been tremendous. Not only did we reach 10,000 this year, we are actually getting close to 11,000. If you guys can believe that, it's unbelievable. If you like what you've seen here today, please subscribe. We do this every week, and I'll be honest with you guys, it took a long time to make this video. If you could just give me 10 seconds of your time and hit that like button on your way out, I would really appreciate it. And finally, there's a lot of people I got to thank to helping me to make this channel the best channel that it can be, helping me to take the time to do this right and give you guys the quality that you deserve. Every week, you guys humble me and you honor me with your generosity. You simply blow me away. This season has just been incredible. I don't know what else to say, guys, other than thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. I just feel overwhelmed at times. Thank you so much. It really does help. It goes a long way. All right, it's going to be 49ers at the Commanders in a very interesting game Sunday. I have no idea what's going to happen in that game. But you know, we will be here to break down that film, and I will see you guys then.